Hey, it's Chris. I just got back from the Apple event and I checked out the new iPads and I got some stuff to share with you. Then you guys sent me some questions and I'm going to make sure to get those answered as well. First things first though, we got accelerated ray tracing for the first time on an iPad, adaptive flash for shadow-free scans, the camera moves from portrait to landscape on the Air and the Pro, and we also got Final Cut Pro and Logic Pro upgrades. And at this point, I haven't even talked about the good stuff. So let me hit you with my top 5 things from this event and then we'll get to your questions. First of all, the M4 chip. Apple skips a generation and inserts not the M3 but the M4 right into the iPad Pro. That's really exciting. A lot of people are going to say, well, what am I going to use all that power for? Because I already had a really powerful iPad before and I wasn't really sure what to do with all the compute. The first thing that everybody's going to be able to take advantage of would be gaming. I saw some really great game demos and things ran very smooth. But for the professionals out there who are going to do things like work with 3D assets, do some crazy blending, use maybe Octane to render things. Wow, the Octane looks amazing. You would look at it and think they were looking at a picture, but it's not a picture. It's completely rendered. And not just rendered, but rendering tons of components. Pretty mind-blowing stuff. If you're doing video, of course, and using the new Apple Camera app that works with Final Cut Pro with the multi-angle recording, that is all amazing. And this processor is absolutely going to take full advantage of that. And for everybody that's using Logic out there as well, I saw some really cool Logic demos and you're going to be able to push that to the limit thanks to the M4 as well. So number 4 on my list is that this is Apple's thinnest device ever. Not just thinnest iPad, but thinnest device ever, especially that larger iPad Pro, that 13-inch. It's just a little bit slimmer than the 11-inch because I could spread things out a little bit. And I'll tell you this, it's even thinner than the actual Apple Pencil, which is pretty mind-blowing. Now, somebody asked me already, could I even tell picking this up? Could I tell, like, holding it along with the new Magic Keyboard, which we're going to get to in a second, could I tell the weight difference versus the previous iPads? And the answer is yes, if I think about it. If you take the time and notice it, then yeah, it's absolutely going to make a difference. What I'm really excited about, though, is the new Magic Keyboard. So yes, there's an aluminum version, or aluminum is involved. The whole thing's not aluminum. So you still have sort of the same material that the old iPad Magic Keyboard was made out of before, hanging out on the back. And I actually kind of like that. And the reason why is because it's not going to get beat up, it's not going to get scratched like your actual aluminum would. So now you add to that the new function row of keys, and that's going to be very useful, not just for the volume and for the contrast, but I'm really going to appreciate having that dedicated dictation button. And yes, then there's the trackpad. Now it's got haptics, so it's more Mac-like in that way. I actually really like the trackpad. It's bigger on the larger model, of course, that makes sense. Otherwise, the key layout is identical on the larger and smaller iPad Pros with the Magic Keyboard. So to celebrate the new iPads, I'm going to give you guys 50% off all of our courses. I'll link that coupon up down below. So if you want to learn how to be more productive, 50% off. If you want to learn how to use Freeform better, 50% off. Got some other courses as well, so check that out. That's linked up down below as well. And that brings us to the new OLED display. Now, it's not just a regular old OLED. There's actually 2 OLED displays in there. My first question when I was asking around about this was, what about screen burn-in issues? Right? If you've ever had a TV where that was an issue, you might wonder about that too. I didn't have much time to ask because I was just blown away by the quality. Some of the demo content was obviously picked very well to showcase this, but when you just see a really dark, a black area, it's almost like there's just nothing there. I know that's the point, that's the purpose, but it really looks good. Somebody already asked me, can you actually tell a difference? Does it really look that different? And the answer is yeah, it looks way, way different. I noticed it right away. In fact, even though OLED was expected, I would say this managed to surprise me with how good it actually looked. And that probably has to do with the way that they implemented it in terms of how bright. It gets really bright. And the colors really just scream off the screen. That's a good way to put it. Yeah, I'm tired of saying they pop, even though that's what they do. They pop, especially next to that inky dark, like just non-existent, like a black hole. Black. It's so black. So hopefully as you're taking in the footage here, I can just leave you with the fact that as good as you think it might be or imagine it to be, with the right content displayed there, it's better than that. And actually, I'm getting a lot of questions about that nano texture option. First of all, it's less about, I would say, the Apple Pencil experience. A lot of people are asking, is this like a paper-like replacement? Doesn't appear to be. What it does seem to be mostly geared toward, I would say, is handling the colors, making sure they really look good, especially in bright situations. So think outside. And then there's what might be my favorite thing that was announced today, and that's the new Apple Pencil Pro. It's not black, it doesn't come in colors. I mean, if you're looking at it, it wouldn't even look all that different. I believe that retails for $129, which is cool because it's not more expensive than what we had before, but you do end up getting some really cool stuff. Number one, the new squeeze gestures. That I love. You pair that with the new haptics, and you have a really compelling stylus here that is going to end up feeling much different, even though it looks so similar. It's basically the same look. To be able to feel that feedback when you're changing tools, when you're actually making strokes and edits and using it within your favorite apps, it's nice. It's nice to have that feedback, and I'm sure that app developers are really going to be clever with how they put that to use. Let's just take Freeform, for instance. If you're in Freeform, you're using the Apple Pencil, and you do the squeeze gesture, well, all the tools come to you, to your Apple Pencil, where it is on the screen, instead of you having to reach out to the side or up to the top of the screen in order to get at and activate those tools. Now, these are some of my initial impressions, and things were flying by while I was actually at the event. So all of this stuff is going to be waiting for me to unbox very shortly. So make sure you're subscribed, make sure you check back. But now let's get to a few of your questions. One excellent question I got was whether or not the new Magic Keyboard, not the Thunderbolt port, but the charging port, would actually charge your iPad faster. And the answer is yes. I don't actually know how much faster, but I can confirm that it will charge faster. I'll have to try to look up the specs. You can look up the specs too, but know that, yeah, it will charge faster. Now that's good because in context, the battery life is rated to be the same. Now I haven't put it through the paces, so I don't know if maybe Apple's being a little conservative and you know what, it turns out, oh, actually the battery life's a little bit better. We'll just have to see. Somebody asked me if it was now possible to transfer files, not just from the iPad to the Mac if you're working with Final Cut Pro. So now you can go from Mac to iPad, iPad to Mac, which is cool because you used to have to start on the iPad and then go make your way to the Mac. All right, somebody's question is about Final Cut Camera. What's that like? It's very cool. I'm this close to thinking about maybe switching all of my multicam camera setup from a bunch of Sonys to maybe a bunch of iPhones. That's how compelling that it was. They had an overhead cam rigged up and an iPhone up there, and you can remotely switch from the iPad that's controlling everything, the different camera lenses. So you could zoom in or you could zoom out. So really, I mean, with all the different lenses that you have more than just 4 multicam options in a way because of the zooms. So somebody was asking about Logic and what the M4 can actually do to improve things there. And I think this is, even if you don't use Logic, this is going to be a good insight into what that M4 is capable of. I was demoed the Chroma Glow feature, and basically you have this thing that used to be sort of a box that would sit physical box that would sit in your studio, probably cost 20 or 30 grand, so kind of out of the reach of a lot of people. And that's sort of been virtualized and baked into Logic now, and you can apply it to all the different studio session instruments. That's really cool. I could definitely notice that big difference, and it was definitely something that's going to be impacted by having the M4. You can't even use that on an Intel Apple machine. It's just not capable. Now, you could use it even on like an M1, but the difference is you're not going to be able to use it as much or use as many instances of it. So if you have 70 tracks in Logic, let's say, and I think the limit is something more like 2,000 because it's so powerful, it's like how many instances of this really great tool are you actually going to be able to employ and use at a time? So the M4 scales that way up for you. Stay tuned for more content. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll catch you in the next video.